Hello, my name's Rich and welcome back to my channel, Rich on Rails. In this video, I'm going to be building a low relief terrace house from Metcalfe. This is the PN174 kit in N scale gauge. But before we start, you're going to need a couple of tools. Some scissors, a sharp knife, some pens. I use these ones from Winsor & Newton. For the red brick stone, I use this 0335 terracotta pen, and for the grey stonework, I use this ice grey 5, also from Winsor & Newton. And you're also going to need some glue. I use ULANZI glue, which is a multi-purpose glue, which is really good for making the Metcalfe models. You're also going to need a tray. I like to have one of these just on hand, just to put all my bits on, so that when we build the builder's yard, everything is nicely arranged. So now that we know what we need, let's get this kit open and lay it out. I like to lay all of my pieces out in front of me so that I know exactly what I've got. If you've never used one of these kits before, they come with absolutely everything that you need and a really good detailed set of instructions. I'd recommend that you give this a good read before starting, because it does tell you exactly what it is that you need to do. You'll get a glazing sheet, all the parts for your building, which comes in 2 halves like this. You get your chimney pots, although I don't like to use these. We've also got some curtains on there as well. I like to use some 3D printed chimney pots that I get off eBay. Some roof ridge tiles. These go along the joins on the roof. And then also the bases for the buildings. So now that we know exactly what we've got in here, let's get it cut out and set up our builder's yard. All of the pieces on these sheets come with score lines. You can see them marked here. So what we need to do is make sure that using our scissors or sharp knife, that we cut along those score lines, because they're there to make sure that the parts fall out of the sheet nicely. As you can see, there's one that's cut out nicely now, and we can just put that to one side, and then all the other bits, as long as it hasn't got anything else on it, we can just pop it straight into the bin. So let's cut out the rest, and we can crack on with the building. Fiddly bits like the doors I like to put on the tray, just so that I can make sure that I'm not going to lose them when we're building. I can catch them with my jumper or my arm and they end up on the floor or get knocked off into the bin, and then we end up with missing pieces that we need later on. This is just a spare bit of stonework. We can just set that to one side. And we've also got a spare roof section just there as well. I like to cut off the bits that we've cut out just to keep everything a bit more tidy on my tray. Pop those into the bin. And we can cut out the inner door frames next. Making sure that we're not going to... Actually, we'll cut out the house front first because the inner door frames are inside that cut area. Some people will tell you that using the knife is easier. I just find using the scissors easier for me, but you can use whatever works for you. There is no right or wrong way, as long as you get the desired effect. That's the inner doors. So that's half of the sheet cut up. We'll move on to the next half now. I think that probably you get the idea of where we're going with this. It's just a case of cutting out all your pieces and getting them nicely laid out, ready for construction. These are bay windows. You can see a little bay window. The white bits in the middle, we'll cut those out when we get to them. Again, I like to just leave those in until we need them, just because it keeps everything nice and sturdy, so that when I'm handling it, it doesn't get bent or whatever. Those bits there, the black bits, those are the bay roofs. So they go on top of the bay windows. There's 4 of those, 1 for each house, or 1 for each. A couple more here, smaller ones. These are also bay window roofs, but we'll get to that later as to why there's multiple. These are the chimney capping stones. Oops. Chimney stacks. As I said earlier, I don't like to use the Metcalfe provided chimney pots. Rolling them is extremely difficult, and the finish just doesn't look as good as what you get if you get some of the 3D printed ones. But depending on your budget and what you finish, the finish that you want it is, then these might be perfect for you. You might have the knack to be able to roll them to make them look really good. I don't. They always just look really sad whenever I make them. So this is the main base. We're almost, all of our pieces are almost all cut out now. Just going to put that over there, not on the tray. And we can cut down here. and down here. This comes out like that. Again, we'll put that over there. Just double check, make sure that all the paper or all the card that we've cut out is not got any other pieces on it. And then pop it off into the bin just so that you don't get all mixed up. So next we need to get our glazing sheet and cut out all the windows. As you can see, all of them have got letters on. They've got letters so that you know which glazing sheet, which window goes with which window frame. But I'm not going to put you through that. I'll get this all cut out and then we can crack on with the build. So that's my builder's yard all set up. You can see on my tray I've got all the pieces here. I've got my glazing there, and all the other bits that I need are laid out nicely in front of me. So that means that we can make a start. Now that our builder's yard is all set up, let's make a start on actually building our model. The first thing that we need to do is put the windows into these inner window door frames. So we'll pop out the white inserts that are in the middle of these, popping them off into the bin, just like this. The half moon shaped ones, just here, these are for doors. So the doors that we cut out earlier on, that's where they go. So we can get a door like this, and that will just essentially go on there like that, but more arranged. So what we need to do is get the WA window pane, put some UHU glue onto there and stick that to the window, to the frame. We'll get one of the, as I said, we'll get one of the WA window frames, pop a little bit of UHU glue onto there, and then simply lay this on top of that window like this. Makes it easier to pick up, and then we can just maneuver the window around in the frame just to get it to look exactly how we want. So it should look something like that. I'm going to do that for the others, and then we'll have a look at the doors. So now that we've got the panes of glass into our frames, we can go ahead and have a look at the doors. But we've got a multitude of different colours of doors. We've got some greys, we've got some greens, some reds and some pinks. So depending on what you want to do, you could start off with a grey and then a red and then a green and then a blue, or you can mix and match, do whatever you want, but pick the doors that you want, then we can get them stuck on. So I'm going to go ahead and make a start on doing mine. You do yours, and then we'll crack on to the next step. So I'm going to pop a little bit of UHU glue onto the outside of the door. I've started off with a grey door as my first one, and then just like the window, whoops, I'm going to stick it down onto the inner frame just like that, and then we have a finished looking door just like this. I'm going to repeat that for the other ones. So for my next one, I'm going to go with a yellow door. I'm going to go grey, yellow, green, and then a dark blue. Pop a bit more glue onto the next door along. Repeat the process. Get the inner frame. Slide it around to make sure that the the door is in the position that you want it to be in, and you should have something that looks like that. I'm going to do the next one now, and then we'll move on to the next step. So now that we have our ground floor windows all done, we can do the first floor windows now. So just like we did before, we're going to pop out these white inserts. I'm going to get something sharp. Got some tweezers with some pointy ends just to push these out. Pop them all into the bin, just like that. You should have something that looks like this. Repeat that for the same for the other side. Put your little inserts in the bin again. So with this one, we need to take the WC pieces and apply some UHU glue and put them into the back of the upper window frames like this. So pop a little bit of UHU glue on, a little bit on the edge, a little bit in the middle, around the top, and then again taking our frame, just place it on top of the window, give it a little move around just to make sure that everything is in the correct place, and then do the same with the other one for the other side. And again, laying our frame on top, moving it around, do the same for the second one, applying a little bit of our UHU glue. Taking the frame and placing it on top. One thing to be mindful of with these is that there is two different styles. So the windows look like this, but there's also another style that we have which looks like this. Probably best to keep those together that match the downstairs, because the downstairs windows are both the same for one side and then exactly the same for the other side as well. Otherwise that might look a bit silly. So I'm going to do the other side now, and then we'll move on again to the next step. So the next step is actually moving on to the main house building, but before we do that we get a choice as to whether or not we want to fit some curtains to the house. I think I do, because on some of the other buildings that I have on my layout I do have curtains. So I'm going to cut mine out and stick those to the back of the downstairs windows. So we literally just cut these out like we did with everything else, but these are paper. Those are the chimney pots that we're not going to use, and then we just get to decide which colour we're going to use. So for the downstairs windows, I think that I'm going to have my curtains match the front door. So we'll just get these cut out. So for my first one here, I've got a green. So there's a green on here. It's just a green on there. So I'm going to go with that one, with that green. there's 4 of the same colour, so we'd be able to put the same colours upstairs and downstairs. So make sure that you cut the right part for the tabs. You don't want to be cutting the tab of the curtains next to it, so we'll cut that off like that, and then down the centre we can cut these, and then popping on some glue and sticking them onto the windows. So popping on some glue on the curtain tab, on there and on there. Actually, I think what we need to do is cut the curtains in half as well. So cut the actual, like that, so you're left with a small little curtain. Otherwise it would look not right. Make sure the big bit is at the bottom, and then you can just stick that onto there like that. I think the glue might have come off when I dropped it. Oh no, there we go. So that's stuck onto there, you can see, and then we'll just repeat that with the other side. So we need to just cut the white bit off the curtain, like this. And then stick it on to the window. You could also decide if you wanted to have your curtains open or closed, or maybe a bit of both. It's quite fiddly, but once you've done it, there we are, we've got a green curtain done. I'm just going to do the others and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, now that the curtains are all applied to the windows, we can move on to actually building the house. So we're going to set the windows to one side, just put them out of the way so that they don't clog up our working area. Let's pop them onto the tray. So the next bit is to get the strengtheners that we require for the next part off this grey sheet. So we need to cut them out using the scissors. So you can just cut, same as we did earlier on, cut along the score lines. And then they just pop out. Like that. This is the house base. Seems a bit keen, wants to get out first by the looks of it. I have to cut up this way along these score lines because that house base was held there. So that's the house base. That's also for the house base. And this one at the bottom is for the house floor, this one here. So we'll just get those ones for the time being, and we'll leave the other ones still on there until we need them. So just pop that back to one side. This middle section needs to come out. That doesn't need to be there. Pop that in the bin along with that. So this is the main base. This has got a yellow tab in the middle, which we can see just here. This needs to be removed, so we can pop that out like that. There is some words on it that says remove this tab, so pop that into the bin. Once we've done that, we can fold it over along the score line just like this, and then glue it together. So we'll just get our Yoo-hoo glue again, apply that around the edge, just like this. Give it a little bit in the middle as well, and then we can just fold it over. And I like to just hold it down just for a few moments, just until it takes hold, and then set it to one side and move on. So you should have something which looks just like this. That's now bonded. We'll wait for that to dry, so I'll just place that on the side and then move on to the next step. So the next step is to get our house base, which is this piece here with the two yellow tabs, and we need to fold those two yellow tabs back on themselves and glue them to the back of the house base itself. So we've got those two position tabs. We'll fold them back and glue them on themselves just so that it looks like this. Again, grabbing our Yoo-hoo glue, popping it on the back of that yellow strip, fold it back, and then hold it down just until it takes hold. Once it's got hold, we can then loose go and move on to the next one. A good idea as well here is to use some little crafting pegs just to hold these down. That's taken a hold, so we'll move on to the next one and then fold that back on itself and hold that down as well. What we should end up with is something that looks like this, with the two position tabs folded over on itself. We'll then take the house base, and those position tabs fit in to that recess that we created earlier on, just in there. So those position tabs should fit in nicely into that little recess, making sure that when we do put the position tabs onto the house base, that the little brown tabs are facing towards the pavement, because those brown tabs, which are shown just there, are actually the doorsteps. So what we'll do is we'll just get some glue, pop it into that little recessed area like that, pop it along the edge along there like that, and then place just trying to pick it up, and then place this into there, making sure that the edges are nice and flush, because when we come to fit the back of the house, if they're not flush, it will stick out and it won't look good. So you should now have something that looks just like that. So the next step is to take the house base strengthener, which looks like this, not to be confused with this one. You can tell the difference because the house base strengthener has got a notch on each end, whereas the other one is literally flat with two little notches on either end. We'll then take that, line the little slit up with the slit that's on the house base, and ensure that it's flush with the rear of the house base, and then we can glue that into place using some of our UHU glue. So we'll just pop that UHU onto there like this. I think that my pot needs a refill. Once you've got the glue onto it, we can then actually offer it up to the cardboard base, just like that. And then the final bit should look just like this. So we're now on to the house front. Again, like we did earlier, we need to pop out these inserts like this. Try not to drop your model on the floor. This is the house front, by the way, which is labelled. Just pop all of these out like this. This bottom section also comes off. That's not needed because that's where the doors go. Just pop that to one side. Put all these little pieces into the bin. And then now what we need to do is get the inserts that we created earlier with the doors on and fix these to the back of here, like this. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll be back to move on to the next step, which looks like fitting the house wall to our base. We can go ahead and fold over these wings, but before we actually glue these to anything, we can take our terracotta pen and along these fold lines on the edge just here, we can make sure that the white gets covered up with the same colour as the brick. This will just give it a nicer finish when it's all done. You can also use a watercolour paint if you like. Mix it yourself to the shade, but I found that these work pretty well for me. And don't worry that they look a bit if they look a bit strong when they're drying. When they've dried, they do look okay. So now we need to get our house base again back from the builder's yard, and we can look to fit the front of the house onto here. So remember I said before that those little grey tabs were our door steps. So we can line those up with the actual doors. And then fold the sides around and glue them to the back like this to create our house. So what we've done now is that the main house body has been glued onto the base. I put some glue just around the edges in there, and then I offered up the house front and then glued the sides and waited for it to dry. So now we'll move on to the next step, which I think is adding in the inner walls. So back to our builder's yard, we've got some small pieces which look just like this, like little wings almost. If you had them on an airplane, they would look a little bit like wings. These are for the strengtheners. They go on the walls, one in the centre and one on the edge. They are a little bit different from each other. One of them has a notch in the bottom, just there, and the other two have just got two little notches on the ends, just like this. These ones are for the two end walls. So one goes on here like this, with the notch in between the strengthener that we added earlier and the house front. One goes on the other end, just like that, and then this one goes in the centre, making sure that this slit that we have on these strengtheners is facing backwards towards the back of the house, because that is where the floor of the house will go. So we need to apply some glue and put these on, and that will strengthen up this building, because at the moment, as you can see, without them this is quite flexible, and in the middle it bends quite a lot. So I'm going to get some glue onto these and fix them on, and then we'll move on to that next step. So now that the house front has got its strengtheners, we need to add in the centre floor. This is the only thin piece that's left. It's got those two little tabs which looked like the base from earlier, the base strengthener from earlier. It's got those two little wings on the end, and they literally just fit into that slot inside here like this. Those slits that we got in those strengtheners fits into there and creates a floor inside the model like this. So what I'm going to do is apply some glue and fix that inside the model. Now that the floor is fitted, we get to fit the back of the house. Not sure if you can see from here, but there's a small slit or recess in the bottom of the model. You can see the recess just there, which marries up with the recess on the bottom of the back of the model. Again, what we'll do is we'll just dry fit this onto here like that. You can see it fits nicely. So again, all the touch points we're going to put some glue on. So we'll put glue all around there, down the middle and down there, and then offer the back up. Once you've got the glue on, offer that up to there, then make sure that all the touching points are actually adhering. So that middle section, that middle brace that we've got just down the centre there, push that up towards the back of the model to make sure that it just absolutely sticks. So now that that's fixed onto there, the next part that we need to do is the chimney stacks. So back over to our grey sheet, we've got 6 chimney stacks here. So we'll just cut those out like this. And then what you do with those is you stack them one on top of the other, just like that, to create a stack of chimney pots. Well, not chimney pots, chimney stacks. So those all need to be glued together. So again, more of our glue. Doesn't matter which one goes at the back with these. All you need to do is just make sure that you're creating a sandwich. Make sure that all the sides are nice and flush. Put it down to a flat surface. Make sure that they're all nice and flush. Put that to one side and then repeat the process for the second one. For the first part, I just give it a offer it up roughly, and then I just put it onto my flat surface just to make sure that all of those edges are perfectly aligned, and then you should have something that looks like this. So the next step now is to get our chimney stacks that we cut out earlier on. So that's these. They've got little wings on the sides which fold around. These don't go all the way around the model though. These only go around the front part that you're actually going to be able to see, because this is a low relief building. So what you'll end up doing is you'll take the surround and then just place that up to there, and then the sides literally just glue onto the sides like that. But again, what you might want to do is, if you get your terracotta pen, and just make sure that those terracotta areas are just treated so that it hides the white, just like that. On mine here, for some reason the fold on that one isn't too great, so it's opened up more than you'd hope. But that is what it is. Let's put that down there. Just repeat that process for this one. I'm not doing the whole way down, I'm only doing to a little bit of the way. There we go. And once we're happy with that, let's get some glue. Pop it onto the back of these chimney stack wraps. Like this. And then simply offer it up. Making sure that the top is level with the top. Holding it in place. Glue it down. Those wings that you can see on the back, those actually hook over the back of the wall of the building once it's once they're offered up to the model itself. So don't bend them off or think they're not needed, because they definitely are needed. We'll just hold that on, waiting for the glue to take effect. Once we're happy with that, we can just apply some glue to the back of the chimney stack sandwich that we created earlier on. Just like that. Bring it over to our model, and then that just goes onto there. So those little wings just fit over the edge like that. So you end up with something that looks like this, with those wings sitting nicely over the edge. Repeat that for the second one of the two. glue that back onto the back of the model like this. Like that, and that's it. Those are the two chimney stacks on there. Then the next job is to get the roof, and then offer that up to there and glue that on. Again, another dry fit first to make sure that everything looks good. Where you're going to put it, where you're going to fix the glue to make sure it stays. So I think I'm going to put some glue along the back edge, because we can see that the roof touches there, and along the front edge. I might even put some just down the sides as well, just to make sure that it's definitely stays in place. You could also put some on the centre if you'd like. So then get your roof, offer that up like that, making sure that it's nice and flush with the chimney. Press down on the back and the front where you want it to glue down, to make sure that it sticks to the areas that you're hoping it to stick to. Okay, so now the roof is fully secured on. The next thing we need to do is fit those chimney toppers, the chimney stones, so they look like this. There's two parts to them. They've got a small piece which goes on top of this larger piece, which is marked out. So I'm going to put some glue onto the area where I want the small piece to go to, like this. And then that goes on there like that, making sure that the smaller topped piece is in the centre. Just use your eye judgment just to make sure that you're happy with it, that the back edges are all lined up, and hopefully you should have something that looks like this. Once you're happy with that, put some glue on the back of on the bottom actually of the topper, and then that just goes onto the top of here, to the top of this chimney stack. Make sure again that it goes in the centre, and make sure that the back edge is not protruding over the back. Again, because this is a low relief house, if we had that protrude in the back of there, when we offered that up to the back of the layout, or to whatever it is you wanted to back it up against, we'd have a problem. So I need to just repeat that for the second one. So here we can see we got the chimney topper stone, and then there's a smaller one. We need to glue these together. Then once you're happy again, apply some glue to the chimney stack, and then pop the stones onto the top of there, just like that. Again, making sure that it's not protruding over the edge. So now the main part of our terrace house is done. We just need to build the bay windows to go on the front, and then this model is pretty much complete. So to do that, we need to get the bay windows from our glazing sheet. We didn't cut these out earlier on, so I just need to do that. We'll just do the one for now, because these are quite fiddly. You need to be very careful with these, because along the edge just here there's a score line. So what we need to do is, along the score line, we need to take a ruler and a sharp blade from our tools and just create a small score along that edge, well, along that dotted line. Problem is that they're slippery, so I do try with the ruler, but it doesn't always work. There we go. And once you've got that scored, you can then fold that bay window back. Because that needs to be glued into the frame itself. Don't go too heavy, otherwise you'll cut right the way through and the whole thing will be ruined. Then what we need to do is get a bay window frame, pop out the inserts just like this. We've done this 1,000 times already on this model. Fold them edges around, and then we can fit this bay window into here. Like that. Making sure that the writing though on the back of the bay window is at the bottom. It might not look straight away that it's actually going to fit, but it does when you fold it around. So what I'm going to do on this one is apply my glue to the actual window frame rather than the pane of glass. So put some glue along there like that. And fit that onto there, just like this. Bring that round. Then we need to just put a little bit of glue along that top tab, along the edge that's going to meet up with the sides. And then bring that down so that it marries up with the edges. You should have something like this. Don't know if you can see very well. Just hold it in place until that glue sets, and then that's what the bay window should look like. Getting that top to stay though is proving tricky. Okay, once you're happy with that bay window, we need to go back in our instructions to these pages aren't numbered, but on the back of page number 2 there's 4 like black squares. Cut those out because those are for the back of the bay windows. So we'll cut them out as the instructions say. Then what we do with that is then fix that to the top So a little bit of glue along that top edge. Like that. Take the back and then just offer that nicely up to that top edge. We might actually need some glue further down, regardless of what the instructions might lead us to believe. And then we should have something that looks a little bit like this. They're quite fragile, so be careful. So remember when we were cutting the bay windows out earlier on, we had these small roofs and big roofs like this. They're a little bit like the chimney stack toppers. Those are the bay roof toppers, so we need to stack them together. So glue on the back of the smaller one like that. That goes onto the top of the smaller one. Try and get it in the middle if you can, so that it looks good with the longer edges of the two flush to the back. And then once that's done, glue along the bottom of the larger piece, and then that glues onto the top of the bay window. Once you've done that, you can apply some glue to the back of that black sheet that we had before, and then glue your bay window into place onto the model like that. You should have something which looks similar to this. I'm going to do the other one, and then we'll need to just do the dormer windows which go on the roof. So now that we've got both of our bay windows fitted onto our model, we just need to fit the dormer windows to the roof. Now, we did get 4 bay windows with the kit. I got 2 more spares over here, but I only chose to fit just the one for each house because I think it would, I don't know, I don't think it looks right. But you can choose to fit 2 if you like. Just because I haven't doesn't mean that you don't have to. That is an option. So the next step is to do the dormer windows. So we're going to move on and do that now. We should get, in your kit, you should get like a star shaped top that looks like this. Again, there's a little piece that we need to pop out of the centre, which is where our little window is going to go. From our glazing sheet, we've got some windows labelled WD, just here, these ones. We just need to cut them out. Those are the dormer windows. Again, we've been given 4, but my house is just going to have 1 each. So just cut these out of here. Just going to cut the one out for a moment, just so that I can make a start on this. Okay, so that's that cut out. It's very, very tiny. So now what I need to do is fit that to the back of here so that it goes inside there, just like we did with the other windows. The only difference is that this one is much smaller. So a little bit of our glue, as we've done 1,000 times up to now. Take our dormer window, lay that on the top, and then just move it around just to get it in the right place. Make sure it's all nicely lined up. And then that should look something like that. And then repeat that for the second one. Once you're happy that the window's in, you fold these little wings around like that, and then the bottom comes up like that, and then they glue together. So we put some glue along that edge, and then glue the sides onto there. So a little bit of glue onto there like that, and a little bit of glue onto there like that, and then push that up and in. Push that up and in, and then just hold it in place until that glue takes hold. I'm not sure there's enough glue on that one side. Keeps coming undone. Let's just put a little bit more in there, like that. That's better. And just hold that on there like that. And the other side. Once that's glued on, then we can fit the roof. So what I've gone ahead and done is fitted the dormer to the top of the model like that. I did say before that I was going to fit the roof first, but that's not a good idea, because what you want to be able to do is offer the roof up to the model to be able to dry fit it a little bit like this. So what I'm going to do now is get a little bit of the glue again, put that onto my roof for the little dormer like this, and then glue that roof onto the actual model itself, making sure that it's in the correct place. Make sure that you're checking, make sure you're happy with it, move it around before it dries, and then you should have something that looks like that. So now what I'm going to go ahead and do is the other one, and then the last thing to do is some of the trimming along the roof edge. So we'll get to that once we've done the last dormer. So now that the dormers are attached to the top of the model, we just need to do some finishing touches to bring it all together. And to do that, we can use these N-scale ridge cards. What we're going to do is cut them like this, and then we can use them to then make some edges to go along the dormer roof and the back of the model. These come with some little score lines down the middle, which we need to be able to fold along. It is quite tricky, so I always like to start at one end, get it started, and then try and just work my way along, just folding as I go. And then what I then like to do is try and use the little ridge tile markings on here to measure how much I need to cut. So for that one, for example, I know that I need to cut it on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, on the 8th one, and probably that's still too long. Let's just try. Oh yeah, that's still too long. So cut 2 more tiles off. You get plenty of these, so you can trial and error, and then once you're happy, our trusty glue, put some of that along there like that, and then pop it just onto the roof, just like that, and then repeat the process for the next one. So we already know that the other one was only 6 tiles long, so we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now on the 6th one, give it a cut. Just make sure that it fits, which it does. Get our trusty glue. Apply some glue to the ridge tiles, and then fix that onto the dormer roof. Just like that. They also suggest that you can put some along the back edge. I don't think I've done that on my other models, but if you'd like to do that, you can just, again, cut them to size and then make sure that they're folded along the edges, just like this. And then literally just glue it on. And that is a completed low profile terrace house from start to finish. We've built this from scratch. If you've been building along, why not share a link to a picture that you might have taken of your terrace house in the comments below. I hope that you have enjoyed this video. If you have, please do give it a like, maybe subscribe and share it with your friends. And I hope to see you in the next one. Cheers.